What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and break down what's happening to the economy thus far and you should be watching for as time progresses, and also how things are looking for Tesla moving forward as we had some big news that just came out. Before I break things down all this information, before I talk about what you should be watching for going into next week, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon. Anyways, now let's break down what's happening with Tesla. Looking at Tesla so far, we actually saw this thing collapse in the morning, getting a very, very big rug pull, coming down to 182 a share. But Tesla ended up rebounding with the market, and this is what I predicted would happen. Now, Tesla could have pumped a lot more. It could have hit the 190s quite easily, in my opinion, if it wasn't for the bad news that came out about the Tesla quote unquote recall. So that's what caused Tesla to have this anchor that kind of weighted down when the market was just like pushing. Tesla was just a little bit weak relative to the others. But it's okay because next week is a new week and things could change from there. So let's first talk about the market. Let's break down what's happening with SPY and the others. Right now on SPY, there's not really a whole lot going on with the options chain for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Things become bigger going into Friday, so I'll be watching to see if that affects us in any way, shape, or form. SPY is also starting to drop a little bit in the after hours, so I'll be talking about that in just a minute. For economic data going into next week, we have the S&P Global Composite PMI and very minor data. It's just a bunch of Fed speakers, just a couple of things here and there. All the data is very minor. Initial jobless claims, nothing too big. The biggest piece of data coming out is going to be next Tuesday, basically. So February 13th, the Tuesday after the Super Bowl, basically, when we have core CPI and CPI coming out. That's going to be very important, so I'll be watching that as well. So we'll be watching that going forward. The data is very minor for next week with lots of Fed speakers. And on top of that, for earnings, we have some earnings coming out. For Monday, we have Caterpillar and McDonald's, then Palantir, which are all very, very minor. They're nothing compared to like an Apple earnings or anything like that. Tuesday is just going to be Spotify, Snap, and just a couple of others. And Wednesday is going to be the most important day of the week for earnings as we have Alibaba in the morning, not to mention PayPal and Disney coming after the market closes on Wednesday. So Wednesday is going to be the most important day for earnings. Everything else is very minor. Right now, the market is very greedy. We're actually still right here on the greed side. We should be closer to extreme once this truly updates. I think this should be truly updated by like Monday morning. But the market is in a very, very interesting position. We saw the market becoming less greedy after when Jerome Powell gave his speech. Then we got a nice recovery going into Thursday, and the market started to push even more today as we got the short squeeze we were looking for. So very interesting stuff. I think the market's going to get closer to extreme greed again. And that's generally when the market's in the topping process. Market momentum has updated as we're still at extreme greed there. And the put and call positioning is back to extreme greed. So it's just going all over the place. We'll see if this thing ends up dropping or not, if we start to see any changes, or if we start to see an increase when we start to see more puts being bought than calls. For Tesla, this news came out in the morning. Tesla is recalling 2.2 million vehicles, this and that. It's still making the headlines right now, which is pretty insane. But what's funny about this is that Tesla's fixing this with just a basic software update. So it's pretty funny to me, the fact that that's all Tesla's doing to fix this. This is technically very important because the NHTSA is coming out saying that Tesla is not it's not basically in accordance with every single one of its policies and regulations. So that's very important. The instrument panel for the vehicle's brake, park, anti-lock brake system, etc. The font size is just too small, which could reduce the driver's detection when it's illuminated. So that's why they have to fix this. So this affects 2.19 million Teslas across the US, including the Model S, the X, Model 3, and Model Y. And the Cybertruck, almost all of the Tesla vehicles sold. Tesla just has to release a software update to fix this. That's just a reminder. So, not the end of the world. If this news didn't come out, Tesla could have run a lot more today, but because of this news, Tesla was a little bit short. Volume was at about 110 million, and the short volume is kind of flat right now. Tesla also has an outperform rating from Wedbush. That's not bad whatsoever. It just came out a couple of days ago. Baird is saying the same thing. The price-price ratio is kind of down right now. Tesla's still relatively weak. But don't forget, Mondays tend to be green about 53% of the time. Februarys are historically a weaker month for Tesla. We're only green about 38% of the time, so be careful going into February. And we'll just have to see how it goes. What do I see for the share price? Honestly, guys, Tesla has been range bound. So for the last couple of days, every time we hit like a little bit above 190 to about 194-ish, Tesla tends to get rejected. And then we tend to get bought up between 182.5 and 184. When we hit those levels, we tend to see buyers step in. So as a result, Tesla's been very sideways. We might maintain this range in early next week. Going to be looking for Tesla to retrace a little bit and try to push up to this yellow trend line. Going to be watching to see how it basically reacts to that. We might test this. So there could be a little bit of upside coming, but then we'll see how it goes after that. But watch that very carefully. I'm just going to try to keep it short from here. For SPY, I think SPY has a nice uptrend. Technically, we have a nice rising wedge-like structure, but don't forget, we have tight resistance at basically 496. If we break above that, watch 497 as resistance, not to mention 500, that entire zone. I think that 497 to 499 to 500 is where we have a tight resistance zone. And I think we might get a rejection off one of these levels. That's my prediction. So it could push a little bit more. We'll look for a rejection very soon on SPY. You want to be very careful when we're at these extreme levels, especially as we approach the psychological 5,000 on SPX. So could we push a little bit more? Yes, we can, but be careful as we hit resistance because we could get rejection. Onto the QQQ. This thing is also trying to push up. We also have this rising wedge-like structure on the triple Q. Going to be looking for a retracement on Monday and see if we could bounce off this, just like that of SPY. I think we're basically in a topping process. I think between 430 and 435, the QQQ is going to top, and we'll have to see how it reacts after that. But watch the rising wedge. We're still not looking the strongest, so be very, very careful. We're very strong in a sense where we pushed up to the high levels, but we're at tight resistance. So be very careful, guys. Be very careful at these high levels. I want to give you guys a warning. I will be talking more about this later on in my video for tomorrow. Nvidia is still very strong. We're approaching 666. If we break this, watch 670. If we get above that, 675 is a real possibility for Nvidia. If you reject off this yellow resistance, so we want to get back below this and reject, watch 658 as a support, 655 and 652. I still think Nvidia could push up more, so we'll be watching for that as well. But besides that, that's pretty much it for Nvidia. For Apple stock, Apple has a very nice looking symmetrical structure. So this is kind of like forming a double bottom right here. And this looks like an inverse head and shoulders like structure. So I anticipate it might come down a little bit. We might see a retracement on Apple and it might try to push up higher later on, which suggests that this could help the market push a little higher. There could be a little bit more upside coming to SPY. Still same thing on the QQQ. We might not be done yet. My only warning was not to tell you that the market's going to tank, but more like the market has some risky levels coming up at tight resistance, especially as we get closer to 500 on SPY. SPX could be approaching a little over 5,000 before we see some tight resistance. So be careful, guys. We could get a rejection at those high levels. Apple could push a little bit temporarily, but we're going to be watching this resistance up here as we approach 188. So be very careful. We have a nice inverse head and shoulder structure, but watch and see how it goes from there. So that being said, I want to keep this video very simple, very short, as it's a Friday night. Tesla has potential to retrace just a little bit, then make its way right back up. So we're going to be watching to see how Tesla responds to this resistance. We have this yellow trend line to be watching for. We'll see how Tesla responds to that. Might come back down to a very key Fibonacci level. I'll be looking at that a little bit later on. And watch this resistance. We might be testing this very soon, and we'll see if Tesla rejects or not. But with that being said, thank you all so much for listening. Please have an absolutely spectacular rest of the day. Remain calm, cool, and collected. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you. Have an amazing weekend, guys. And I'll see you guys very soon again tomorrow. Thank you and peace out.